I am making a Rose Dragon deck profile. This deck is really fun to use, and depending on what your playstyle is, for me at least, has determined what hand traps you use. So as I'm going through this deck profile, I'll go through what can be taken out for more hand traps, because this deck currently doesn't have any hand traps. But Rose Dragon overall is fun, just be able to Black Rose your opponent multiple times a turn if needed. Starting off with the monsters, I play 3 copies of Evil Thorn. Evil Thorn says you contribute this card, inflict 300 points of damage to your opponent, and if you do, you can special summon 2 Evil Thorns from your deck in attack position but negate their effects. So I always like it because it's a monster you can summon off of other cards to summon it for free, tribute it, get 2 more, and then just either do synchro plays or link plays from there. Then I play 1 copy of Spore. Spore is a monster that you can only use its effect once per duel, but during your main phase, you can banish a plant from your graveyard to summon it, and then its level increases by the level of the plant you banish. Then I play 3 copies of Rose Lover. Rose Lover and Evil Thorn are 6 cards you can take out for more hand traps, because they're not as useful in this deck as they were before. But Rose Lover just says you can banish from your graveyard, special summon a plant type monster from your hand, and if you do, it's unaffected by opponent's trap effects this turn. You can only use effective Rose Lover once per turn. Then I play probably the best starter, if not extender, in the deck, and that is Ruddy Rose Witch. Its effects, you contribute it to and then add a Witch of the Black Rose to your hand, and then stack your deck with a plant monster. And then you can immediately afterwards normal summon 1 Witch of the Black Rose. So typically what you'll end up stacking your deck with is 1 of the 2 copies of Rose Fairy. Because Rose Fairy has once added from your deck to your hand by a card effect, or by the effect of a spell, trap, or monster, you can special summon it. So that includes your Witch of the Black Rose drawing it. Then I play 2 copies of Dark Rose Fairy. Dark Rose Fairy says if a tuner is special summoned, you can special summon this from your hand. Or if it's in the graveyard, you can send 1 card from your hand or field to the graveyard, put it on top of your deck. This is another card I've thought about taking out for other cards, like a 2nd copy of Rose Girl. Rose Girl just says if a plant monster you control is sent to the graveyard, except during the damage step, you can special summon this from your hand, which includes a synchro summon, which I kind of like. And then if a plant monster is on the field and this is in your grave, you can add it to your hand. You can only use each effective Rose Girl once per turn. So I kind of like Rose Girl at 1, which is the reason I probably end up just taking it out for another 1-of card. Then on to the non-dragon monsters of the deck. I play 2 copies of Witch of the Black Rose. Witch of the Black Rose says it cannot be special summoned. If this card is normal summoned and you control no other cards, draw a card, show it, and then if it was not a monster, send it to the graveyard. Also destroy this card. But whenever you summon this, it'll be off the effect of Ruddy Rose Witch. So you'll always be drawing something like Rose Fairy. So what you can do is, you normal summon this, draw Rose Fairy summons itself, make Black Rose Dragon, or at any level 7 synchro you want. Or even something like as dumb as this card that I still think should be banned, so we get things like Bulb and Destrudo back. Because I would rather have those than Calcify Rex. Then, to finish off the plants, I play 1 copy of World Caraway Champion. This is only in here because sometimes you need a level 4 plant. But while it's in the graveyard, you can send 1 plant from your hand to the grave to special summon it once per turn. And you go. The only monster you can't send to your grave for World Caraway Champion is another champion, but you only play the 1, so that never comes up. I was reading it because it looked like it had more text than for just that. Then I play 3 copies of Red Rose Dragon. Red Rose Dragon says if it is sent to the graveyard at synchro material, you can special summon a Rose Dragon monster from your hand or deck, except for another Red Rose Dragon. And then if it was for the synchro summon of a Black Rose Dragon, or a plant synchro monster, you can then add 1 copy of Frozen Rose or Blooming of the Darkest Rose from your deck to your hand. You can only use each of its effects once per turn. So what I like to do is I'll summon White Rose Dragon, special summon Red Rose, tune them for Black Rose Dragon, chain 1 Black Rose, chain 2 Red Rose, and because it was for Black Rose Dragon, chain 3 Red Rose. So first I'll summon Blue Rose Dragon, then I'll search for Frozen Rose, then Black Rose Dragon will nuke the field, and then Blue Rose Dragon will bring Black Rose right back. Then I play 3 copies of Rox Rose Dragon. Rox Rose Dragon says if it's normal or a special summon, you can add 1 card that lists Black Rose Dragon and its text from your deck to your hand, except for another copy of itself. Whilst in the graveyard, if a Rose Dragon monster or Plant Synchro monster you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can return it to your hand. So it's a recurring thing that you can normal summon. Search for something like a Basil Rose Shoot or Frozen Blue. Actually, I don't think Frozen Rose lists Black Rose Dragon. Then I play 3 copies of White Rose Dragon. White Rose Dragon says when it's normal summoning, you special summon a Rose Dragon monster in your hand or graveyard, except for another copy of itself. And you can only use each of its following effects once returned, which is if you control a Dragon Tuner or Plant Tuner, you special summon from your hand. And then if it's sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can send a level 4 or higher plant monster from your deck to the grave. So you can use it to send another World Carrot Weight Champion to the graveyard. Then I play 3 copies of Blue Rose Dragon. Blue Rose Dragon's a monster you can cut to 1. So there's 9 cards you can already take out for things like Effect Veil or Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, Infinite Impermanence. But Blue Rose Dragon just says if it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you target a Black Rose Dragon or plant monster in your grave and special summon that monster. That is it for the monsters. Moving on to the spells. Play 1 copy of 1 for 1, 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, 1 copy of Black Garden. Black Garden is actually a fun card. It says if a monster is normal or special summoned, except by the effect of Black Rose Garden, you can then get to have that monster's attack, and then the opposing player or whoever played the monster, their opponent gets a Rose token that's I believe it is a level 2 dark plant with 800 attack, 800 defense. And you get an attack position, and then you can destroy Black Garden to destroy all plant monsters in play, and then summon a monster from your graveyard that has the same attack. Then I play 1 copy of Called by the Grave, 1 Monster Reborn. Then I play 3 copies of Basil Rose Shoot. Basil Rose Shoot just says special summon 1 Rose Dragon monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position. And then if this set card is destroyed, you can target 1 of your Black Rose Dragons or a monster that specifically lists the card in its text that is banished from your graveyard, special summon it. So sometimes it's actually a good idea to have it set when you're about to make the upgraded Black Rose Dragon, because of how it banishes everything in the graveyard first. But then to finish off the deck, I play 3 copies of Frozen Rose. Frozen Rose, you can play only 1 or 2 copies and be fine. I just like it at 3 because sometimes you need its effects, which is you send a face-up monster you control to the graveyard and apply an effect depending on what type it was. So if you sent a plant monster during the end phase, you draw 2 and discard 1. Or if you attributed or sent anything that isn't a plant, you get to add 1 level 4 lower plant monster from your deck to your hand. So then that is it for my the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck, I play 2 copies of Crossroads Dragon. Crossroads Dragon just requires 2 monsters of different types. During the main phase, you can, as a quick effect, you can tribute it in 1 plant monster. You special summon 1 Rose Synchro monster or 1 plant Synchro from your extra deck, and that is treated as a Synchro summon. Then it says if I've hardly ever summoned this because usually I just go straight into Black Rose Dragon, so I'm somewhat reading of it. And then while this card's in your graveyard, or if a monster you control is destroyed by card effect while it's in your graveyard, you can banish this card special on a Rose Dragon monster from your graveyard. So if you have this in play, tribute a plant, summon Black Rose Dragon, Black Rose nukes the field, you can banish this to bring back Black Rose. Then I play one copy of Crystron Hockey Fireaxe. I have never summoned this card, so it's only in here being pretty, more or less. But when it's summoned, you can special summon a tuner monster in your deck in defense mode with its effects negated. During the main phase, you can, as a quick effect, you contribute it to special summon a Synchro tuner from your extra deck. So like what you can do with this is you can summon one of the two Garden Rose Maidens, then activate Hockey Fireaxe's effect, triggering itself and summon Garden Rose Flora. And then you can use Garden Rose Flora to then summon Ruddy Rose Dragon to banish all cards in the graveyards, and then you destroy all other cards in play. But Garden Rose Maiden's effect says that it can, when it's synchro summoned, you can add one copy of Black Garden from your deck or graveyard to your hand. And you can, while it's in your graveyard, you can banish it to bring back a Rose Dragon or a Dragon Synchro monster from your graveyard. Then Garden Rose Flora. The only effect of it I have ever used is its effect to synchro summon during the main phase. But its other effect is if it's you can target one card in the field zone, destroy it, and then special summon to its controller's field 1 Rose token. In attack position, also you cannot special summon monster extract for the rest of the turn except synchro monsters. And then the quick effect activates the effect of synchro summon. Then I play one copy of Perialis, Empress of Blossoms. Against 400 attack for each plant monster you control except for itself. And then during your main phase, you can special summon one level 5 or higher plant monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position. So usually with this, you're going to bring back Garden Rose Maiden or Garden Rose Flora. And then moving on to the dragons of the deck, I play one copy of Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. And then its effect is when it's special summoned or a level 5 or higher monster special summoned to your opponent's side of the field, you can target one special tongue twister. You can target one special summoned monster your opponent controls, return to the hand. You can only use each of its effects once per turn. Then I play two copies of Black Rose Dragon. I'm probably going to be taking out probably the next monster for a third copy, because sometimes I have needed 3 but I only had 2. But its effect is when it's synchro summoned, you can destroy all cards on the field. And then once per turn, you can banish one plant monster from your graveyard, target a defense monster your opponent controls, change it to attack mode, its attack becomes 0 until the end of this turn. Then I play one copy of Cyberse Quantum Dragon. I'll either be taking this or the next monster out for the third Black Rose Dragon. But Cyberse Quantum Dragon is basically a Neospatian Grand Mole where it can attack a monster, return it to the hand, and then but then, unlike Grand Mole, it gets a second attack. And then while you control a Link monster, your opponent cannot target monsters for attacks except this, nor can they target other monsters with card effects. Then I play one copy of Clearwing Synchro Dragon. Clearwing Synchro Dragon's effect is, if your opponent would activate a monster effect that would target a level 5 or higher monster on the field, you can negate that effect, destroy it. And if your opponent activates the effect of a level 5 or higher monster, you can negate that monster's effect, destroy it, and if you do, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, or Clear Wing Synchro Dragon gains that monster's attack until the end of the turn. So this is just great for preventing monster effects from activating, or preventing your opponent's monsters from targeting your monsters. Then I play one copy of Warlord Savage Dragon. Savage Dragon will just equip a Link monster from your graveyard. It gets Boral counters for each card equipped by its own effect, or for that equips link rating, and then it can use one of its counters per turn to negate a card or effect your opponent activates, and then also gains half the attack of the equipped Link monster. And to finish off the extra deck, I play two copies of Ruddy Rose Dragon. Ruddy Rose Dragon says that if it's synchro summoned, you can banish all cards from the graveyards. Then, if this card was synchro summoned using a Black Rose Dragon or a plant synchro monster, as material, you can destroy all other cards on the field. When an opponent activates a card or effect, you contribute it, negate that effect, and if you do, special summon a Black Rose Dragon from your graveyard, or extra deck. So that is it for my Rose Dragon deck profile. If you have any ideas what I can improve the deck, other decks you'd like to see me make, or decks you'd like to see face each other, feel free to comment below. Thanks for watching.